Jayam Vishnupad Paramhangsa Brahmadakacharya Asatara Satushi Shiman. His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Harival. Glories to the sound devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatyade Satarane. Om Agana Tumanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm going to start reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 6, Creation of the Universal Form, beginning with just reading the verse from text number 27, and then I'll read text number 28. Thereafter, from the head of the... 26 also. Thereafter, when his consciousness separately manifested itself, the total energy, Mahatattva, entered with his conscious part. Thus the living entity is able to conceive specific knowledge. Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested, and from his legs the earthly planets, and from his abdomen the sky separately manifested themselves. Within them the demigods and others were also manifested in terms of the modes of material nature. Everyone understood that? Whatever. Mary had a little lamb, and she... I'll read it again. Thereafter, from the head of the gigantic form, the heavenly planets were manifested. So just see the heavenly planets floating around on the universal form, and from his legs the earthly planets. And from his abdomen the sky separately manifested themselves. Within them the demigods and others were manifested in terms of the modes of material nature. Purport. Translate. Text 28. Adyantikena satvena divyam deva prapedire dharam raja sabut bhavena Panayo ye chitan anu. Yantikena satvena. Divam deva prapedire. Dharam raja swabhavena. Panayo ye chitan anu. Adyantikena satvena. Zamdeva prapedire. Dharam raja sabhavena. Panayo ye chitan anu. Dikena tatvena. Ladies, Adyantikena, excessive, satvena, by the mode of goodness, Devam, in the higher planets, Deva, the demigods, Prapedire, have been situated, Dharam, on the earth, Raja, the mode of passion, Sabhavena, by nature, Panaya, the human being, Yea, all those, Cha, also, Tan, there, Anu, subordinate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The demigods, qualified by this super excellent quality of the mode of goodness, are situated in the heavenly planets, whereas the human beings, because of their nature in the mode of passion, live on the earth in company with their subordinates. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita 14:14-15, it is said that those who are highly developed in the mode of goodness are promoted to the higher heavenly planetary system. And those who are overpowered by the mode of passion are situated in the middle planetary systems, the Earth and similar planets. But those who are surcharged with the mode of ignorance are degraded to the lower planetary systems or to the animal kingdom. The demigods are highly developed in the mode of goodness, and thus they are situated in the heavenly planets. Below human beings are the animals, although some of them mingle with human society. Cows, horses, dogs, etc., are habituated to living under the protection of human beings. The word adyantikena is very significant in this verse. By development of the mode of goodness of material nature, one can become situated in the heavenly planets. By excessive development of the modes of passion and ignorance, The human being indulges in killing the animals who are meant to be protected by mankind. Persons who indulge in unnecessary animal killing have excessively developed in the mode of passion and ignorance and have no hope of advancing to the mode of goodness. They are destined to be degraded to the lower statuses of life. The planetary systems are calculated as upper and lower in terms of the classes of living entities who live there. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shinivadi Paskatya Desthana. Here it's mentioned about the modes of material nature. The Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 sections. The first 6 chapters explain about the process of yoga, different kinds of yoga, from karma yoga to jnana yoga to astanga yoga to bhakti yoga, by which one's consciousness is elevated. Especially elevated to the point where one can accept pure devotional service in order to become conscious of Krishna. The middle 6 chapters deal with the very process of pure devotional service and how it helps one become Krishna conscious and develop all good qualities. And the last 6 chapters deal with the jnana yoga, philosophy, by which understanding which one can become fixed in bhakti yoga, or devotional service. Now, Krishna says in many chapters, for instance, that I'm going to explain to you the best of all knowledge. He says that in the 9th chapter, Idam tu te guyatamam pravaksham anushuyave. I'm going to explain to you the best knowledge. Idam tu te guyatama, the most secret of all secrets. The 9th chapter is called the secret of all secrets. And the 7th, the most confidential knowledge. And the 7th chapter, beginning with Maya Sakta Manakparta, now hear from me, O son of Kunti, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So the 7th chapter begins with the king of knowledge, devotional service, and then the most confidential part of knowledge, Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. And then Krishna says in the 10th chapter, I'm even going to explain to you even better knowledge than all this. And then in the 11th chapter, Krishna reveals that knowledge. And then in the 14th chapter, Krishna will say, Idam jnanam upashityam no. Idam tu, what does he say? Idam jnanam pravakshami, jnanam uttama, yajgatva muniya sarve param siddhim itogata. Now we're in the philosophical part of the Bhagavad Gita, after the devotional part, the middle 6 chapters. And now Krishna says, I'm going to explain to you even better knowledge than I explained about the most confidential and the best knowledge. What? I thought you already explained the best knowledge, the most confident, and now you're going to explain something better. So maybe Krishna, it was a battle, before a battle, and everything gets all confusing, and it wasn't recorded anyhow. Maybe Krishna forgot what he had said in the previous 5 chapters, and maybe Arjuna was falling asleep, so Krishna was telling Arjuna, I have something even better to tell you now, just to keep his attention. So in what way is this 14th chapter, Idam Jnanam Upashitya, Idam Jnanam Upashitya, no, that's not right either. Param Bhuya Pravakshami Jnanam Jnanam Uttamam. Param, the best. Param Bhuya Pravakshami. Now I'm going to tell you again the best of all knowledge. Jnanam Jnanam Uttamam. Not only just knowledge, but the best of all knowledge. And by this knowledge, Muniya Sarve Param Siddhimi Togata. This is how the sages attain perfection. So, what is Krishna talking about? Did he get confused? Did he forget what he said previously? Was it just like they asked, someone asked, if God is so powerful, could he invent a rock that he can't lift? And Prabhupada's answer was yes, and then he'll lift it. So he's going to give us better knowledge and the most confidential and the best of knowledge. So why did Krishna say this? Param bhuya pravakshami jnanam jnanam uttama. Anyone know? You've all read the Bhagavad Gita. So why does Krishna bring this up? Yes. Yes, definitely it's from a different. What kind of angle is it from? Yeah, for someone living in the material world, surrounded by the modes of material nature, and acting according to the modes of material nature, sometimes. Therefore, to know what the modes of material nature are is very valuable, is the best of things. For instance, if you want to fly from here to, say, Miami, then it would be good to know, what airplane was the best to take, especially nowadays. What's the best price of the airplane, etc., etc. These are all very valuable because everyone knows that unless you get a good airplane, then you can't fly to Miami. So that's valuable. But then again, you should know where the airport is and how to get there. Otherwise, if you don't know where the airport is and how are you going to get there, it doesn't matter how you may make a reservation on the best airlines and have a first-class seat, and you may leave your house exactly on time, but if you don't know where the airport is, you don't know how to get there. You may stand on the roof of the building here and hope that the airplane will wave your ticket as the airplane flies by. But it's very unlikely to get on the airplane. The airplane goes, hop aboard. So before we think about transcendence, we have to be conscious of what is the platform by which we can transcend. And that platform is the mode of goodness. So unless we understand what's the difference between ignorance, passion, and goodness, unless we can perceive in our, not only, theoretically in the mode of goodness, we're nice people, passion, we're very busy, ignorance, we're just, we're kind of sleeping all the time. So that's nice, these are general, but then Krishna, in the 18th chapter, he describes goodness, passion, ignorance, and charity, penance, austerity, describes it in intelligence, knowledge, and determination, and happiness, and so in work and workers, determination, faith, so many different things. So did Krishna just have to fill up, about the modes of nature to Arjuna, because otherwise the Bhagavad Gita would have been very small. Instead of getting $5 for each Bhagavad Gita, we'd only be getting one. We wouldn't have any, it would be one less Mahabook we would have to sell. So Krishna decided to fill up the Bhagavad Gita with all kinds of knowledge that has no relevance to our life. No, these are the things we're supposed to be remembering, that we're supposed to be aware of. It's not just, as Prabhupada said in one lecture, the devotee's selling a book and he's presenting the book to someone, and the person says, "Thank you very much, what's in the book?" And the devotee says, "Well, they never told me to read the book, they just told me to sell them." So you please take the book and read it, and if you have time, come back and you can tell me what's in the book. No, this is supposed to give us a vision, and the most practical vision is the modes of material nature. If we want to make some improvement, of course, everything is based upon purity of chanting the holy name. That our whole spiritual advancement depends upon chanting the holy name offenselessly. But there's no question of spiritual advancement if we're in the modes of ignorance and passion. In other words, unless you come to the airport, there's no question of catching the plane. So if our life is lived in ignorance and passion, then it's very unlikely we're going to chant offenselessly the holy name. Therefore, to know what our daily lives are like in the background, so that when we are chanting, hopefully, if we're actually in the mode of goodness in our life, during our life, or even when we're preaching, when we're going out in Harinam or distributing books, if we're doing it in goodness, it's much more likely that we're going to be able to actually be effective in our own spiritual advancement. If we chant, if we perform devotional service, even in ignorance and passion, then it's very unlikely we're going to make any spiritual advancement, even though it's devotional service. So it should also be done in the mode of goodness, at least, because that's accessible to us. For instance, at one time there was a controversy because, this is 72, I believe, and the devotees had decided, the GBC at that time, had decided that they were going to create a centralized system of economy, especially for North America, to make our management very much more efficient. So they called a meeting, some GBCs called a meeting, and they elected someone as the GBC, and they gave him the position of managing the finances of the entire society. The only problem is they never inquired from Prabhupada whether that's what he wanted. They never even called, they only called certain select GBC members who came to the meeting, and then they sent Prabhupada the results of the meeting afterwards. They elected another GBC without consulting Prabhupada, which was not the procedure at that time. And Prabhupada's response was to write a letter to all the temple presidents, and I was a temple president at that time, so I got one of the letters, I don't know what happened to it, telling us not to listen to the GBC, which wasn't a problem because we never listened to the GBC anyhow. Because my GBC, I was in Texas, and my GBC was in Boston. So it was so far away, and we never used the telephone. It was too expensive. At least I never did. It was too expensive. So it was very little. But anyhow, he said, don't listen to the GBC. You should only listen to me. And then he wrote to the GBC members at that time, explaining why he had taken that action. Because they were trying to centralize the society. And he said that actually there's a very famous letter to a devotee named Karundaprabhu, where he said that our society is meant to establish individual initiative and inspiration. Don't centralize anything except for the BBT, etc. That you should be working in such a way as to inspire devotees by following the regular principles to come to more and more higher levels of Krishna consciousness by sacrifice and personal endeavor. And then Prabhupada wrote to one devotee, he said, I see that you're making big, big plans to centralize everything. But the really important thing, I don't see that you're actually covering in your meetings, because I've noticed that devotees, before they take prasadam, they don't even bother washing their hands. See, I've noticed that, so I think that's what you should discuss at your meetings. Get the devotees to wash their hands before they take prasadam, not these big, big things, endeavors for economic centralization. Do something important. So for us, it's like, wow, these big plans to big buildings, big finances, big and fame and things like that, big publicity, but devotees don't even wash their hands before they take prasadam. In other words, our society is meant for the elevation of consciousness, not for the getting bigger and bigger, not necessarily just getting bigger and bigger buildings. Because bigger and bigger buildings is nice, but the basis of that should be the development of consciousness and the inspiration for others to help that development of consciousness. We're consciousness-centered. We're not external-centered. We're not supposed to be externally centered and judge everything by how bigger everything is getting. What externally, we should be judging things also how things are getting bigger internally, purer internally. So that takes some knowledge in the modes of material nature. And we have to memorize these things, otherwise we don't know. If we're not observing what mode of nature I'm working under, we won't know what to be done and what's not to be done. If we don't know what the mode of goodness is, how will we know if we're doing it? One time I asked Srila Prabhupada, I said, Srila Prabhupada, if Krishna wants me to do something and Krishna doesn't want me to do something, this is 1969 by the way, so I haven't learned that much since then, but then how will I know what Krishna wants me to do? And Srila Prabhupada looked at me and started to laugh. He said, you won't know what to do. He said, you'll do the wrong thing. And then everyone started to laugh, and then Prabhupada looked at me with great compassion because he didn't want me to get upset. But unless we know Bhagavad Gita, unless we see through the eyes of Bhagavad Gita, how do we know if we're doing the right thing? Now, someone told us to do something, and we're doing it, and therefore, in one sense, it is the right thing. But what about our consciousness? Unless we're actually perceiving where our consciousness is at, unless we have some standard to judge it, how will we know? Of course, we could chant Hare Krishna, but if we're not in the right consciousness, we may not chant Hare Krishna. Or we may chant Hare Krishna and then stop chanting Hare Krishna because we're carried away by our consciousness. So how do we judge? We have to know. We have to know Bhagavad Gita. And not only just know it theoretically, not only just hear it, just like we hear in these books, but we should actually remember what we're hearing. Something should be there. If we're eating prasad all day long, or as Prabhupada said, an elephant eats this much, and he passes this much stool. So there's no gain. So we're hearing this much and we're forgetting that much. Where's our progress? So we have to hear, and then we have to remember something at least, something that we can actually understand and then apply within our lives. And then when we apply it within our lives, the result is 3 things should be there if we're actually applying it, especially in our relationships with others, with Krishna, with the devotees, with the innocent, and with the atheists. 3 things should be there. We should see everyone and everything more clearly in relation to Krishna. We should develop affection and love for everyone and everything in relation to Krishna. And we should become detached from the things, the ideas and conceptions and activities that draw our mind away from Krishna. So that should be the result of hearing. And to begin with, for instance, we should practice things that are important. We should know things that are important. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 17th chapter, Krishna says, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Socham Arjavam Brahmacharyam Ahimsam Cha Shariram Tapa Uchate. That austerity of the body is Deva Dvija. Deva means the demigods or God. Deva Dvija, the twice born, the Brahmins. Deva Dvija Guru, the Guru, Shiksha and Diksha Gurus, Pragya, the learned persons. Pujanam, we should worship them, we should honor them. Socham, and we should be clean mentally and physically. Arjavam, and simple, truthful, not complicating our lives unnecessarily. Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Socham Arjavam Brahmacharyam, celibacy, ahimsa, non-violence, shariram tap uchate. So, cleanliness and truthfulness, which develop into celibacy and non-violence, these are the two Brahminical qualities that are essential for human life. They're just not like options, that we could be violent, kill the animals, be envious against others, break all the principles, and at the same time be great elevated personalities in society. No, these are essential qualities for a human being. Krishna defines only a few of them in this verse in Bhagavad Gita: austerity of the body, tapasya brahmacharyena samena cha dhamena cha. But ultimately, no one could be control of their senses unless they follow some kind of austerity, sacrifice, and penance. No one could fix their minds on Krishna. No one could fix their minds on anything unless one follows austerity. And the greatest austerity is to become Krishna conscious and to perform devotional service. Now we can externally do this. We can be celibate, we can be simple, we can be clean. But what about our consciousness? And therefore Krishna says, Anuvegam karam vakyam satyam socham dayam. Anuvega karam vakyam satyam hitam. Actually, I got this wrong. Anuvega karam vakyam sattvam priya hitam chayat swadaya abhyasanam chaiva vangmana tapuchavate. So this is essential, how we're speaking. If we say all kinds of nonsense, then our minds will become agitated, which is the next thing Krishna will talk about. Anuvegam, if we're agitating other people's minds, then our minds are also going to be agitated. Karam vakyam satyam. And if we're not truthful, and truthful doesn't mean that I tell it as I see it. That Prabhu, in the 6 loving exchanges, I'm supposed to reveal my mind and confidence to you, so I have to be truthful. You're a rascal. You're the biggest rascal I've seen. You're disgusting. Every time I see you, I get sick. I just wanted to be truthful and reveal my mind and confidence to you. That's not exactly what Satya means. Satya means the real truth is ultimate truth, is Krishna consciousness. And unless we see things from Krishna consciousness, no matter how much we try to be so-called truthful, what we're saying is untruthful. Satyam priya, and pleasing. Our business in this world is not to make people feel bad. That's not the aim of our life. Make people feel depressed. People come to our lecture and we say, Swavit Purahostra Karara. They simply walk in and we say, you're all like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. Because you're following bigger hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. People, these people are heavy. Where's the exit? No, our aim is not to make people feel bad. It's sometimes, under a certain audience, we may say things to alleviate their problems. Like a surgeon takes a knife, and to cut out a boil, his idea is not to torture the person by using a knife, is to take out the cause of his suffering so he can feel better. He can actually get some permanent well-being. So we should say things that are pleasing. People will be attracted. For instance, if we go on book distribution, and we have time to speak to someone, then generally you say something nice to the person. Oh, thank you for stopping. You look like a very intelligent person. You have a nice family here. You're the most intelligent person I stopped. So anyhow, to say something nice to people, then they might be listening. So to say something pleasing, as it says by Prahladananda Saraswati, we approach someone with a straw in our mouths, flattering them 1,000 times, saying, "Oh, great sadhu." And then people might listen to us. Priya hitam. And it should be beneficial. We're not just simply trying to hypnotize people, entice them. We're trying to say something that will actually help them advance in spiritual life, advance at least towards spiritual life, something that will be beneficial in their lives. Satyam priyahitam chayat swarya bhyasanam chaiva. And it should be something that we made up. It's something according to the actual scripture. So this is our meditation. Yari deka tarikaha Krishna upadesh amaya agai guruhana tare desh. Whoever we meet, this is what we should be thinking. What I can say that's truthful, what I can say that's pleasing, what I can say that's beneficial, what I can say that is scriptural, what will not agitate their mind, what will actually become, how I can be an instrument for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and help people advance in their relationship to Krishna. So that's a meditation. And even one person during the day, even we meet our dog, and we think like that. We meditate a little bit. How can I talk to this dog in such a way that's pleasing, beneficial, and he hears the holy name at least, even though he may not appreciate it. Actually, any person we meet, if we have that meditation, then that meditation becomes the most valuable part of our day. The most significant devotional service we performed in that day. The most intense devotional service. The one that's most likely to help us remember Krishna. And what to speak of manak prasadam somya tvam monam atma vinigraha bhava samshidir ityetad tapo manasam uchate. All right, we don't meet anyone during the day. I'm doing this activity, that activity. But where's my mind? Is it satisfied? Prasad. Am I happy because I'm in Krishna consciousness? Manak prasad. Somya, is it balanced? Is it wandering back and forth between hate and love? Monam, am I grave? Am I just talking because I like my tongue waving? Either it's tasting prasadam or is waving just in the wind, saying so many nonsense things. Monam atma vinigraha. Am I actually enlivened? Is my mind enlivened in Krishna consciousness? Manak prasadam somya tvam monam atma vinigraha bhava samshidir ityeta. Is it actually pure? Are my motivations pure? Do I actually want to help people become Krishna conscious? Do I want to do the right thing to help others and help myself? That these are asteres of the mind. So we have so much to do, so much to work on. And if our objective is to become Krishna conscious, then these practical things we'll work on. And this will make us easier to fill in the gaps in our remembrance of Krishna during the day. And if we don't, we may make a vow, hundreds of vows. We may try to chant our rounds very nicely. But if during the day our minds are wandering to a million different things, then we're going to have a very difficult time advancing pure devotional service. Making sufficient traction that we're actually seeing ourselves progressing day after day in deeper and deeper and more consistent, more and more constant remembrance of Krishna and pure devotional service. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes, Tulsi.
practice devotional service. So it's not a doubt, it's rather, I'm thinking, can we say like, what is the percentage? What is more important for us, like the mercy of Krishna or the endeavors that we have to put in the process?
For us, 100% the endeavor we put into the process. Krishna's mercy is already there if we put our endeavor in the process. Tesham sadatam yuktanam. Well, first of all, Krishna says, I'm God. He's all merciful. Or I guess the best thing is, Prabhupada answers your question. Do we have is there a Bhagavad Gita? Which I don't know. Third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the last verse in the purport. In the material existence, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overlording and for sense gratification is the greatest enemy of the conditioned soul. For by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribed duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing Krishna consciousness, one can become situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind, by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. That's the verse I was looking for. Everything depends upon it's. Which one is it? Sorry. It's 5th chapter. Either the super soul was asleep or I was asleep. Probably I was asleep. But he decided to wake me up. So this is the end of the 5th chapter, the last verse. As long as one is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life, even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, for it is an arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. And here's the point. The Lord is not partial to anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which in every respect help one control the senses, conquer the influence of desire and anger. And one who stands fast in Krishna consciousness, controlling the above-mentioned passions, remains factually in the transcendental stage of Brahma Nirvana. So everything depends, as Prabhupada writes here, everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Krishna consciousness, which in every respect help one control the senses and conquer the influence of desire and anger. So Krishna's mercy to Arjuna is he taught him how to do that. That's not apart from his mercy. That is his mercy. The 5th chapter, 29, the last part of the purport. Yes, Madhuri. No. Anyone else? Thank you very much. Grantaraj, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
His Holiness Prahladananda Maharaj ki